My name is Marina Vera, 32 years old. The key slid into the lock almost soundlessly, though my hand trembled as I turned it. Muscle memory from 18 months in a combat zone guided me. Quiet, calculated, deliberate. I wanted my homecoming to be a surprise, not a knock on the door. The duffel on my shoulder still smelled of desert sand and gun oil. A folded uniform, my Purple Heart tucked into the front pocket, everything a reminder of where I'd been and how close I'd come to not returning at all. The house greeted me like a stranger. Something was off, though the walls were the same. Family photographs still lined the hallway. My parents smiling at our wedding, my husband Desmond in his navy suit, me in my grandmother's lace dress. That bride's smile looked foreign now, almost mocking, like she knew something I didn't. A hush filled the air, not the comforting quiet of home, but the suffocating stillness before an ambush. I paused, one hand grazing the wall, half expecting the click of a hidden rifle or the crack of sudden gunfire. Old instincts die hard. I pushed a slow breath out and forced myself forward. The carpet muffled my boots as I moved deeper into the house. Then I heard it, muffled voices, laughter disguised by heavy breaths, the creak of a mattress that had been ours. My chest tightened. Desmond must be on a late work call, I told myself, but work calls didn't sound like that. The bedroom door was ajar. A slice of lamplight spilled across the hall. My pulse quickened, though a small, foolish part of me still wanted to believe I was wrong. I pictured his face lighting up with shock and joy when he saw me. I pictured him sweeping me into his arms, saying he couldn't believe I was home early. That fantasy lasted exactly 1 second after I pushed the door open. 2 bodies, tangled in our sheets, our wedding quilt, hand-stitched by my mother despite her arthritis. Desmond's bare back glistened with sweat as he moved rhythmically, oblivious. And beneath him, auburn hair spilled across my pillow. Hair I knew as well as my own. Lily, my cousin. The world tilted. For a moment, I was back in the desert, lungs searing, vision narrowing, as if under fire. But this wasn't shrapnel or gunpowder. This was poison in my bloodstream. They hadn't seen me yet. Lost in betrayal, too wrapped up in themselves to notice the soldier in the doorway. My body reacted before my mind did. Training took over. One sharp step forward, my boot connected with Desmond's ribs in a brutal strike. The thud reverberated through the room. Desmond yelped, a strangled groan ripping from his throat as he crashed onto the floor. His eyes shot open, pupils wide with disbelief. Lily screamed when she saw me. Her mouth opened and closed like she wanted to speak, but only a choking gasp came out. She clawed for the sheets, trying to cover herself, as if cotton could shield her from the truth standing in front of her. "Marina, wait, please," Desmond gasped, curling against the nightstand, one hand clutching his side. I stepped forward, shadow falling over Lily. She flinched, trembling, sliding toward the bed's edge like a cornered animal. Fury and grief fused into one unstoppable force inside me. "You," I whispered, voice low, almost calm. My hand shot out, tangling in Lily's hair. She shrieked, high-pitched and desperate, but it was too late. With one violent pull, I yanked her off the bed. Her body crashed into the glass table by the wall, shards exploding like gunfire, slicing the silence into chaos. She writhed on the floor, clutching her arms, gasping through tears. Blood dotted her pale skin where glass had cut her. Desmond scrambled toward her, but froze when I straightened, eyes burning into him. "This," I hissed, "is the homecoming you planned for me?" He shook his head violently, chest heaving. "Marina, you don't understand." "Don't I?" My laugh was sharp, a sound that didn't feel like mine. "I spent 18 months dodging IEDs, burying soldiers I couldn't save, counting days until I came back to you. And this is what you were counting on?" Lily whimpered. I'm sorry." The apology snapped something inside me. "Sorry? You stood beside me at my wedding, Lily. You held my bouquet. You swore you were happy for me. And all this time..." My voice broke, the words jagged in my throat. "All this time you were waiting for me to be gone." Neither of them spoke. Desmond's face was twisted in panic, sweat beading on his forehead. Lily's eyes darted to the door, calculating escape. I bent down, my voice colder than the desert nights I'd survived. "Get out." They blinked at me, uncomprehending. "Both of you, out of my house, now." Desmond's lips trembled. "Marina, please, it's not what it looks like." That broke me. I laughed, bitter and sharp. I've been lied to by insurgents with better stories than that. Don't insult me. Lily sobbed, clutching the sheet around her. Please, Marina, don't tell the family. Tell the family? I snapped. You'll be lucky if you walk out of this house in one piece. They scrambled, panicked, searching for clothes scattered across the floor. My eyes landed on Desmond's jeans, Lily's dress, their undergarments, a grotesque still life of betrayal. With a quick motion, I scooped them into my arms. Desmond reached out, voice cracking. Marina, don't. What are you doing? You want your clothes? I sneered. Then earn them. I turned and walked out of the bedroom, their desperate pleas chasing me down the hallway. My boots struck the wooden stairs with military precision, each step echoing like a countdown. The back door creaked open to the patio. The night was cool, crickets singing, completely unaware of the war erupting inside my chest. I dropped the bundle of their clothes into the fire pit. The lighter fluid was still where I remembered it, tucked in the storage box. I sprayed it liberally, the acrid smell rising like a warning. Marina, stop! Desmond's voice cracked as he staggered into the doorway, clutching a pillow to his waist. Behind him, Lily cowered, wrapped in our bedsheet, eyes wide with terror. The flame roared to life with one strike of a match. Cotton, denim, silk, they curled and blackened in seconds, smoke rising into the night. The smell of burning fabric and betrayal filled the air. You have 5 minutes, I said flatly, not looking at them. 5 minutes to get out of my house. Desmond's jaw dropped. This is my house, too. I turned, my glare cutting him off. Check the deed, Desmond. Only my name is on it. Military allowance. You have 4 minutes. Lily sobbed harder, the sheet slipping from her shoulders. Please, Marina, we don't have anywhere to go. Not my problem. Their panic swelled. Desmond's face twisted, anger battling fear. Lily clung to him, whispering frantic words I couldn't hear, but I did hear the truth beneath it all. They weren't sorry for betraying me. They were only sorry they'd been caught. The flames hissed, consuming everything they'd worn while they desecrated my life. The crackling fire lit their faces, painting them in flickering shades of guilt and fear. And me? I stood tall, hands steady, voice like steel. The soldier in me had survived deserts and bloodshed. The woman in me had just died in that bedroom. 4 minutes. And I meant every second. The fire hissed and crackled, the smoke curling upward like a signal flare. By the time Desmond and Lily bolted down the porch steps, wrapped in nothing but bedsheets, the neighborhood had already started to notice. Mrs. Peterson's porch light flicked on. Curtains shifted across the street. The Johnsons' dog barked, restless, sensing the commotion. In less than 5 minutes, what had been my private hell turned into a public spectacle. Desmond stumbled barefoot onto the lawn, clutching the sheet at his waist. Marina, please, he hissed, his voice desperate but low, as if bargaining could erase the smoke that betrayed him. Lily, trembling behind him, clutched her sheet like a shroud. Her auburn hair I'd braided when we were little girls, was tangled and wet with tears. Neighbors gathered silently, phones discreetly lifted. Some looked away, others stared in open fascination. Small-town Ohio. A scandal here traveled faster than a wildfire in the dry season. I didn't care. The flames licked higher, devouring Desmond's jeans, Lily's pale blue dress, the bra I'd once complimented her on during a shopping trip. One by one, their possessions crumbled into ash. You have 2 minutes left, I said, my voice calm, steady, amplified by rage. Lily's sob turned into a strangled scream. You're humiliating us! I smiled bitterly. No, Lily, you humiliated yourselves the moment you touched my bed. Desmond's chest heaved. We'll talk tomorrow, Marina, when you've calmed down. That nearly broke me with laughter. Tomorrow? My voice rose. Do you think there's a tomorrow after this? A hush fell over the gathering crowd. I wanted them to hear every word. Let gossip carry the truth, so I wouldn't have to repeat it 100 times. My husband and my cousin, I said loudly, eyes locked on them. Together. In my bed, under my mother's quilt. And you expect me to calm down? Gasps rippled through the night. Mrs. Peterson covered her mouth. The Johnsons exchanged wide-eyed glances. Somewhere in the crowd, someone muttered, Lord, have mercy. Desmond's face blanched, and Lily buried her face in his shoulder as if shame could be hidden. But shame was the only thing left to them. When the flames died down to glowing embers, I stepped back into the house. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently, deliberately, sealing them out of my world. The silence inside was worse than the shouting had been. It pressed against me, filling every corner. The photographs on the hallway wall mocked me now. Desmond's smile, Lily's radiant face at our wedding, the illusion of family. I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly heavy. The weight of 18 months in the desert, of shrapnel still lodged in my shoulder, of every lonely night replaying Desmond's voice in my mind. Everything collapsed on top of me. For the first time in years, I wasn't Captain Vera, the officer who'd led convoys through ambush zones. I was just a woman gutted by betrayal. The sting was sharper because of who Lily was. My cousin, my first best friend, the girl who'd snuck marshmallows with me at sleepovers, who'd whispered secrets into the dark when we were children. She'd been my maid of honor, my confidant. I remembered her squeezing my hand before the vows, whispering, "You deserve this, Marina. You deserve to be loved." Loved. How long had she been planning to take him from me? My stomach twisted. Love wasn't stolen in a single night. It was eroded, piece by piece, long before. I closed my eyes and let the memories unravel. Millfield, Ohio. Population 3,847. A town where secrets lasted about as long as fresh bread. My father owned the hardware store. My mother taught 3rd grade. Normal people with normal lives. But I'd never been normal. Where other girls played with dolls, I climbed trees until my knees bled. Where they dreamed of weddings, I dreamed of escape. At 18, I enlisted, my father furious. "The military's no place for a lady," he'd said. "I'm not trying to be a lady," I'd answered. "I'm trying to be more." Boot camp burned the softness out of me. I thrived in the fire, marksmanship, tactics, leadership. By 25, I was leading troops overseas. I was proud, hardened, alive. And then Desmond appeared, a civil engineer, quiet where I was intense, gentle where I was hardened. He made me feel like I wasn't just a soldier, like I was still human. "You're beautiful when you smile," he'd said once. I didn't smile often back then, but he earned every rare one. He waded through deployments, loved me through nightmares, or so I thought. I should have seen the cracks. The late nights he brushed off with vague explanations, the financial accounts that never quite matched what we'd budgeted. "It's just the stress," he'd said when I asked. And Lily, always hovering, always there, too helpful, too close. But I'd been blind because I wanted to believe in home. Now home was ash. The front door rattled. I jerked upright, instincts sharp again. A voice called through the wood, Desmond's, low and insistent. "Marina, please, let us in. Just talk to us." Talk, as if words could scrub away the image of their bodies knotted in my sheets. I grabbed the poker from beside the fireplace and marched to the door. I pressed the iron tip against the wood, inches from his voice. "If you step inside, I won't hesitate," I growled. Silence, then retreating footsteps. When I turned back, the house seemed emptier than ever. I let the poker clatter to the floor and collapsed again, burying my face in my hands. Tomorrow, everyone in Millfield would know. Whispers at the diner, glances at the gas station, murmurs in the church pews. And what story would they tell? That Marina Vera, decorated soldier, couldn't keep her husband faithful? That Lily Augustus, the charming real estate darling, had finally gotten her way? I didn't care anymore. Let them talk. But in the pit of my stomach, a darker thought took root. Their affair wasn't just about lust. It was about something planned, deliberate. Those bank statements, the jewelry Lily wore, the hotel receipts I'd glimpsed once by accident, they all resurfaced in my mind. This wasn't just betrayal of the heart. It was betrayal of everything I'd built. And I knew deep down it wasn't over. The silence in the house was unbearable, not peace, not rest, just a hollow echo that pressed against my chest until it was hard to breathe. I paced the living room like a caged animal, each step heavy, boots still on, duffel bag forgotten by the door. The clock ticked past midnight. My body begged for sleep, but my mind was a battlefield. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them again. Desmond's skin against hers, Lily's hair fanned out across my pillow, their gasps and whispers filling the air that should have been mine. My hand shook as I reached for my phone. The first number I dialed was instinct. "Jake Winston," came the groggy voice after 2 rings. "Jake, it's me, Marina." There was a pause, then a shift in his tone, the voice of the soldier I'd once known in uniform. "Jesus, what time is it? Are you hurt?" A bitter laugh scraped my throat. "Not the way you mean. I caught Desmond. With Lily." The line went silent. I pictured Jake rubbing his face, muttering curses under his breath. Finally, he said, "I'll handle it. Divorce papers, asset protection, the works. But Marina, you need to stay calm. Don't give him anything he can use against you." "Calm?" My voice cracked. "I burned their clothes on the lawn." Another pause. Then Jake sighed. "Good. Burn the rest of his life while you're at it. But let me make it legal. Don't let him drag you down." His steadiness was a rope in the quicksand, but as soon as I hung up, the silence rushed back in. The second call was harder. "Colonel Franklin," came the clipped voice. "Sir, it's Captain Vera, reporting a personal incident." My voice faltered, but training pulled it back in line. "It may affect my security clearance." There was a pause. "Go on." "Caught my husband in an affair with my cousin. It's complicated. There may be financial implications." Another pause. I imagined his hand tightening around a pen. "I'm sorry to hear that, Captain. Do you need extended leave?" "No, sir, I need to stay busy." He exhaled, long and steady. "Understood. Take care of yourself, Vera. That's an order." When I ended the call, my chest caved in. Orders couldn't fix this. Combat couldn't prepare me for this. But the worst call was yet to come. The phone rang 4 times before my mother answered, her voice groggy but warm. "Sweetheart? Marina? What's wrong?" I swallowed hard. "Mom, I need to tell you something about Desmond. And Lily." Silence. Then softly, "Oh, honey." Her voice broke. "I knew." My knees buckled. I sank onto the couch, clutching the phone to my ear. "You knew?" "Since Christmas. The way they looked at each other. The way she spoke about him. I hoped I was wrong. I prayed I was wrong." Tears blurred my vision. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me without proof? Or would you have thought I was just jealous, just suspicious of Lily?" Her words pierced deeper than any blade. Because she was right. I would have defended them. I would have told her she was imagining things. "I'm so sorry, baby," she whispered. "I'm so sorry this happened to you." For the first time since I opened that bedroom door, I cried. Not the sharp tears of anger, but the gut-deep sobs of a woman who had lost everything. My chest shook, breath ragged, grief pouring out in heaves I couldn't control. My mother stayed on the line, whispering comfort, but it barely touched the storm raging inside me. By morning, the storm had spread. Millfield was awake, and so was the gossip. I made coffee I couldn't taste and sat by the window as texts buzzed through my phone. High school friends, distant relatives, neighbors I barely knew. Some offered sympathy. Some asked shameless questions. A few, always ready to judge, wrote things like, "Well, maybe if you'd been home more." Those words cut deeper than shrapnel, because a part of me believed them. I thought of every deployment, every Christmas missed, every night Desmond slept alone while I slept in a sand-blown tent across the ocean. Had I created the loneliness that Lily exploited? Had I left the door open for betrayal? But another part of me knew. Loyalty wasn't negotiable. If Desmond had loved me, he would have waited. If Lily had loved me as family, she would have stayed away. The guilt wasn't mine to carry, and yet it clung to me like smoke. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. Mrs. Peterson stood there with a casserole dish, her expression a mix of pity and righteous anger. "Saw what happened last night," she said, voice low but firm. "Don't you worry, dear. Everyone saw who the villains were." I almost laughed. Villains. As if this were a storybook. But it wasn't. It was my life, unraveling thread by thread. I thanked her, though the food turned to ash in my mouth. As the day dragged on, the house grew heavier, every corner haunted. The kitchen where Desmond had cooked pancakes on Sundays. The living room where Lily had lounged during holidays, laughing, pretending to love me. The bedroom I couldn't even set foot in. By evening, the exhaustion was bone deep, but sleep refused me. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Desmond's voice at the door, whispering for me to let him in. I saw Lily's wide eyes, her sheet slipping as she begged for mercy. Mercy. The word soured in my stomach. There would be no mercy. Something told me their betrayal went further than bodies tangled in bedsheets. The hotel receipts I'd glimpsed once, the new bracelet on Lily's wrist she swore was a bonus, the credit card statements that never added up, those fragments formed a shadow in my mind. They hadn't just cheated. They had been planning something. And whatever it was, I was going to uncover it. Even if it meant burning down more than their clothes. Jake's office smelled like coffee and old leather, grounding me in something solid after a week of shadows and whispers. He sat behind his desk, his war-battered hands flipping through a thick folder. His brow furrowed deeper with every page. "This is bad, Marina," he muttered finally. "Worse than I expected." The folder contained photographs, grainy surveillance shots of Desmond and Lily, holding hands across a candlelit table, kissing in the parking garage of her apartment building, entering hotels with overnight bags. The timestamp stretched back almost a year. I leaned forward, stomach twisting. Almost my entire deployment. Jake nodded grimly. 8 months at least. And that's just what we can prove. The photos blurred as tears threatened, but I blinked them away. Rage sharpened my vision again. Each shot felt like another bullet, not from enemies overseas, but from the people I'd trusted most. "Keep going," I said flatly. Jake flipped the next set of documents. Bank statements, credit card charges, receipts. "This," he tapped the page, "is financial infidelity. Joint account withdrawals for jewelry, hotels, restaurants, thousands of dollars, all during your deployment." My breath caught when I saw a charge at the exact restaurant Desmond and I had celebrated our first anniversary. Candlelight, champagne, promises of forever. He'd taken her there. "My money," I whispered. "Combat pay, hazard bonuses, blood money from war," and he spent it on her. Jake's eyes flicked up, steady and sharp. "That's why we'll win this. Financial records don't lie. He stole from you, and courts don't take kindly to that." He shuffled more papers. Then his expression darkened further. He pulled a separate folder from his drawer and slid it across to me. I opened it, and the air left my lungs. Divorce papers. Filed 3 weeks ago. My name scribbled across them in a handwriting that was supposed to be mine, but wasn't. "Grounds, abandonment, mental instability," Jake read grimly. He was building a case, Marina, to strip you of everything. I scanned the pages, hands trembling. Words leapt out at me like daggers. Unfit spouse, dereliction, emotional volatility. "He wanted to paint you as unstable," Jake said quietly, "so he could claim the house, the assets, maybe even your pension." Heat surged through me, hotter than any desert sun. He wanted to erase me, as if I never existed. Jake leaned back, arms crossed. This wasn't just an affair. It was premeditated theft. They weren't careless. They were planning. The word stuck in my chest. Planning. Desmond hadn't just fallen into Lily's arms because of loneliness. They had been building a future together, piece by piece, brick by brick, on the foundation of my ruin. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the desk, the soldier in me fighting to stay upright. "How far would they have gone?" I whispered. Jake's silence said more than words. I shoved the papers away. The walls felt too close. I needed air. I stumbled out of his office and into the night, the city's neon lights blurring through my tears. But fate wasn't done with me yet. Back home, I poured a glass of water and collapsed onto the couch. The house was dark except for the streetlight spilling through the blinds. The quiet pressed in, heavier than before. Something nagged at me, a voice in the back of my mind. Check. I dragged myself upstairs to the bedroom. The air smelled faintly of Lily's vanilla perfume, no matter how many times I'd scrubbed the sheets. My skin crawled. Check. I scanned the dresser, the nightstands, the mirror. My reflection stared back, hollow-eyed, exhausted, broken. And then I saw it. A glint just behind the mirror frame, small, round. My breath caught. I pried the mirror from the wall and my stomach dropped. A camera. Tiny, professional grade. Hidden so neatly I never would have found it without suspicion. I staggered back, nausea rolling over me. My bedroom, my sanctuary, my battlefield, my prison had been under surveillance. For how long? By whom? I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the device in my hands, feeling its weight like a ticking bomb. This wasn't just betrayal, this was conspiracy. Whatever truth I thought I'd uncovered was only the surface. And somewhere beneath, something darker was waiting. The camera was small, barely bigger than a coin, but it weighed like a grenade in my hand. I turned it over and over, as though the plastic casing could answer the questions screaming inside me. How long had it been there? Why? Who planted it? I dropped it on the bed and stumbled back, heart pounding. Every corner of the room looked different now, infected, contaminated. The dresser, the nightstand, the quilt my mother made, all witnesses to something I hadn't seen. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. At dawn, a courier arrived at my porch. A nervous-looking man who shoved an envelope into my hand without meeting my eyes. Inside, a flash drive and a note, scrawled in jagged handwriting. You deserve to know. Check the bedroom camera. Password, Desert Rose. No signature, just those words. My palms slick with sweat, I slid the flash drive into my laptop. A folder bloomed on the screen, filled with video files, each neatly labeled with dates. The earliest was 3 months into my deployment. I hesitated only a second before clicking play. The screen lit up with my bedroom, my bed, my quilt, and Desmond, leading Lily inside, both laughing like teenagers sneaking into a movie theater. Lily shoved him playfully onto the bed, climbing over him with practiced ease. Her voice was clear, sharp, mocking. She'll never know. Desmond's laugh cut deeper than shrapnel. She's too busy playing soldier. Playing soldier. Like the sand, the blood, the endless nights guarding convoys had been a game. I gripped the laptop so hard my knuckles whitened, bile rising in my throat. The footage rolled on. Nights blurred into one another, them tangled in sheets, their voices dripping with cruelty. They mocked my strict tone, imitating how I barked orders. Lily pulled on Desmond's t-shirt, strutted across the room, imitating my military posture. Desmond laughed until tears rolled down his cheeks. And then worse. She calls me every night, Lily said one evening, sprawled across my side of the bed, like some lovesick teenager. Convenient, Desmond replied, kissing her shoulder. She never asks the right questions. I slammed pause, chest heaving. Convenient. I'd thought my phone calls had been lifelines. To them, they were entertainment. I pressed play again, stomach twisting. What happens when she comes back? Lily asked. Desmond was quiet for a long moment. Then he muttered, She won't. Not permanently. There's always another deployment. Another mission. That's who she is. And if she does? Lily's tone sharpened. Another pause. Then Desmond's voice, low, deliberate. Accidents happen in war zones. The words struck like a sniper's bullet. My ears rang. My vision tunneled. They hadn't just wanted me gone. They had been waiting for me not to come back. The implication hollowed me out. They had wished for a folded flag, a funeral, the easy inheritance of my life insurance and my house. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the laptop. I staggered to the bathroom and retched until nothing came up, my body convulsing with betrayal. 18 months. I'd fought every day to survive, to come home to them. And they'd been laughing, mocking, praying for my death. I sank to the floor, forehead against the cold tile. My mind swirled. Who had sent me the note? Who wanted me to see this? The phone rang. Unknown number. I wiped my face, forced breath into my lungs, and answered. Captain Vera. A male voice, steady but weary. Captain, this is Detective Ray Caston, Columbus PD. I think we need to talk. My blood ran cold. So this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Detective Ray Caston didn't look like the detectives on TV. No sharp suit, no swagger. Just a man in his 40s with prematurely gray hair, tired eyes, and a voice that carried the weight of too many late nights. We met at a diner outside town, neutral ground away from curious neighbors and their eager gossip. He didn't waste time. You're wondering who sent you that flash drive, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. I kept my hands clasped around the mug of coffee I hadn't touched, among other things. It came from my investigation, he explained, pulling a thick manila folder from his satchel. Your cousin Lily has been under surveillance for 3 months. Real estate fraud, mortgage scams, identity theft, property flipping schemes. Your husband was her newest recruit. My stomach clenched. Recruit? He slid the folder across the table. Inside were documents. Mortgage applications with forged signatures, falsified property deeds, bank transfers. Lily's name appeared again and again, tied to shell companies, shadow accounts. She targeted married men with assets, Caston said, got close to them, seduced them, then bled them dry. Desmond wasn't the first. He was number 7. I stared at the pages, bile rising in my throat. 7? He nodded grimly. 6 others before him. All men with something to lose. Some paid her off quietly. Some lost everything. She kept recordings, bedroom footage, text logs, as insurance. If anyone resisted, she blackmailed them. My pulse thundered in my ears. She used Desmond the same way. Caston hesitated. At first, but something changed. Instead of resisting, Desmond partnered with her, full partner. Financial fraud, identity theft, you name it. Your joint accounts became their playground. I closed my eyes. Memories flickered, the unexplained charges, the jewelry I'd never received, the business dinners he couldn't explain. All the pieces clicked. It hadn't been about loneliness. It had been about greed. How much? I forced out. Over 200,000 stolen from various victims, most of it funneled through your accounts. I gripped the edge of the table. So I'm not just a betrayed wife, I'm the alibi, the bankroll. Caston's eyes softened. You were collateral damage in a criminal enterprise. They thought your deployments made you the perfect cover, long absences, unstable reputation to exploit if needed. I almost laughed, sharp and bitter. So that's why the divorce papers painted me unstable. It was insurance. If I caught them, they'd bury me as the crazy soldier wife. He nodded. Exactly. The world tilted again. But this time it wasn't grief. It was calculation. I wasn't looking at just betrayal anymore. I was staring at an operation. I steadied my breath. What do you need from me? Your cooperation, Caston said simply. Testimony about the accounts, the forged signatures, the theft. You're the key witness. And what happens if I say yes? We build the case. Fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, forgery, attempted blackmail. We're looking at 15 to 20 years, minimum. 20 years. I pictured Desmond behind bars, his gray eyes hollow, Lily pacing in a cell, stripped of her charm, her beauty fading into irrelevance. It should have satisfied me, but the soldier in me wanted more, wanted them to feel the same fear I had felt, the same emptiness. I pressed my hands flat against the table. I'll cooperate, but I want in. Whatever sting you're running, whatever traps you set, I want to be part of it. Caston studied me carefully. This isn't combat, Captain. It's law enforcement. You can't just... I cut him off. I've been fighting wars since I was 18. I know how to follow orders. I know how to bait traps. You need me. I know them better than anyone. He leaned back, rubbing his jaw. For a moment, I thought he'd refuse. But then his lips curved, faintly, grimly. You're right. We do need you. They won't let their guard down around us, but they'll let it down around you. Something inside me shifted. For weeks, I'd been drowning in betrayal, grief, rage. Now a new current surged through me. Purpose. A mission. Caston tapped the folder. They think they've broken you. Use that. Pretend to forgive. Pretend to want reconciliation. Wear a wire. Give us everything we need. I felt the familiar fire in my chest. The same fire that had carried me through ambushes, through nights of sandstorms and gunfire. Only now it wasn't about enemy insurgents. It was about my husband, my cousin, my betrayers. I looked Caston straight in the eye. When do we start? The wire itched against my skin, thin tape binding it in place beneath my blouse. I'd worn body armor that weighed 50 pounds, carried rifles through mountain passes, marched under the weight of combat gear. But this tiny microphone pressed against my ribs felt heavier than all of it. Caston's voice echoed in my head from the briefing. Stay calm. Don't engage. Just let them talk. Easy for him to say. He hadn't kissed his enemy goodnight for years. Desmond had insisted we see a counselor. We need help, Marina, he'd said, his gray eyes soft, his voice dripping with rehearsed regret. If we want to rebuild, we need a professional. I'd nodded, playing the part of the broken wife desperate for reconciliation. All the while, I knew the therapist's license was fake. Caston had already confirmed it. A fraud, one of Lily's contacts, someone who specialized in declaring military spouses mentally unstable. The office smelled faintly of lavender and lies. The therapist sat across from us, pen poised, glasses perched at the end of her nose. Tell me what brings you here, she prompted. Desmond leaned forward, voice low, sincere. I've been worried about Marina. She's unstable since coming back. Nightmares, paranoia, violent outbursts. Saturday's incident with the fire. He shook his head, sighing. That's not normal. My jaw clenched. I forced my voice to tremble, eyes cast downward. I was angry. I lost control, but I want to do better. The therapist scribbled something, nodding. Military service can be very traumatic, especially for women. The pressure to prove themselves, the masculine environment, it often leads to breaks in stability. The words sliced me open. I'd bled, fought, commanded, and now they were trying to weaponize my service against me. Exactly, Desmond said softly. He reached for my hand. I let him. She's not herself anymore. I swallowed bile, let my shoulders slump. Maybe he's right. The session went on like that. Desmond painting me as paranoid, unfit, broken. The therapist nodding, validating, feeding his narrative. Every word was captured by the wire taped to my chest. When it ended, Desmond kissed my cheek in the hallway. His lips were warm, familiar, poisonous. "We'll get through this," he murmured. I smiled weakly. Inside, I imagined wrapping my hands around his throat. The next act in their play came from Lily. I found her at the grocery store 2 days later, right on schedule. She approached me near the produce aisle, tears spilling down her cheeks like she'd practiced them in a mirror. "Marina," she whispered, clutching my arm, "please, I never meant for this to happen." I stiffened, but didn't pull away. "You never meant to fall into my husband's bed?" Her lip quivered. "We were lonely. Desmond was so broken without you, and I—" She sobbed, drawing stares from nearby shoppers. "It just happened. But it wasn't love, not like what you two had." Her words dripped with rehearsed sincerity, every syllable caught by the wire beneath my blouse. "You tried to stop?" I asked softly. "So many times," she said, eyes wide, pleading. "But we couldn't. It was bigger than us. But please believe me, Marina, I never wanted to hurt you." I tilted my head, studying her. God, she was good. If I hadn't seen the footage, the fraud files, the forged papers, I might have believed her. "You want forgiveness," I said finally. She nodded, tears glistening. "Understanding. Maybe we could all move forward together, as a family." I almost laughed out loud. Together, as if she hadn't already torn the word to shreds. But I kept my face soft, my voice small. "Maybe, someday." Her shoulders sagged with relief. She squeezed my hand, whispering, "Thank you." As she walked away, I caught her reflection in the freezer door glass. Her tears vanished, her posture straightened. The performance ended the second she thought I was convinced. And the wire caught it all. The final piece came one night after another counseling session. Desmond lingered as the therapist left the room. He leaned close, his breath warm against my ear, his whisper meant only for me. "We just need her out of the way," he murmured, glancing at the door Lily had just closed behind her. My blood turned to ice. "Out of the way. Not gone, not forgiven, out of the way." The soldier in me wanted to grab his shirt, slam him against the wall, scream until the truth spilled out. But I kept my face blank, eyes down, playing the part of the broken wife. "Out of the way how?" I whispered back, my voice trembling. He smiled faintly, the smile that once made me fall in love. "Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out." The recorder against my ribs hummed with their words. Every lie, every plot, every whisper of conspiracy, it was all there now. Evidence, ammunition. And for the first time since I'd opened that bedroom door, I felt something close to calm. Because I knew the endgame was coming. And this time, I wasn't the one being ambushed. The sting took 3 weeks to prepare. 3 weeks of pretending to forgive, of swallowing my rage and smiling when Desmond brushed my hair back, when Lily pressed her damp cheek against mine in a mock embrace. 3 weeks of living inside a theater where every scene was rehearsed, every word recorded, every lie cataloged. I wore the wire like armor. Not Kevlar, but protection, all the same. It caught everything. Desmond's rehearsed remorse, Lily's crocodile tears, the therapist's fraudulent diagnosis, every whisper, every scheme, every poisoned plan. When Caston finally said, "It's time," I almost collapsed from relief. The arrests happened on a Thursday morning. Lily was cornered at her apartment, mascara smeared as agents swarmed the building. She was in the middle of charming a new mark, a Navy SEAL's wife who'd reached out with real estate questions. Instead, she got handcuffs. Desmond was taken at his office. I watched from Caston's unmarked car as they led him out in front of his colleagues. His suit wrinkled, his face pale, his mouth forming silent denials. For once, his voice didn't save him. He looked up as they shoved him into the cruiser, and for a flicker of a second, our eyes locked. I expected rage. Instead, I saw disbelief, like he still couldn't understand how I'd beaten him at his own game. The trial began 6 months later. By then, Millfield's gossip mill had transformed into a full-blown media circus. Headlines called it the betrayal scandal, a story too juicy for small-town boundaries. The soldier wife, the cheating cousin, the fraudulent husband, it read like pulp fiction. Only it was my life. The courtroom was sterile, beige walls and wooden benches, but for me, it was a battlefield. I walked in wearing my dress uniform. The ribbons, the medals, the brass, all polished until they gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Not for vanity, for power, for contrast. On one side, Desmond and Lily in orange jumpsuits, wrists chained, faces drained of their practiced charm. On the other, me, a soldier who'd bled for her country, now ready to bleed truth into the record. Jake stood at my side, steady as ever. When the prosecution called me to the stand, my boots echoed against the floor, each step deliberate, heavy with meaning. State your name for the record. Captain Marina Vera. My voice didn't shake, not once. I testified for 3 days. 3 days of walking the jury through bank statements, forged signatures, hotel receipts. 3 days of playing audio from the wire. Desmond's soft-spoken lies, Lily's rehearsed sobs, the therapist's fraudulent validations. And then, the recordings from the hidden camera. The jury leaned forward as Desmond's voice filled the courtroom. Accidents happen in war zones. Lily's mocking laugh followed. She's pathetic, calling every night like a lovesick teenager. The silence afterward was suffocating. I looked at the jurors, at the spectators, at my parents in the back row. None of them saw me as paranoid now. They saw the truth laid bare, ugly and undeniable. Desmond's lawyer tried to paint me as unstable, as bitter, as vengeful. Captain Vera admits to suffering from PTSD, he argued. Her perceptions may be colored by trauma, by personal vendettas. Jake stood, sharp as a blade. Captain Vera has been evaluated multiple times for fitness of duty. Each time she has been found mentally sound, professionally competent, and emotionally stable. What you're hearing isn't paranoia, it's evidence. The defense sputtered. The jury's faces hardened. Lily's lawyer tried a different tactic. She was manipulated, he claimed, coerced by Desmond, preyed upon while vulnerable. She never intended to commit fraud. The prosecution dropped financial records onto the table. Fraud traced back years, long before Desmond. Lily had been running cons since college, targeting lonely men with precision. Desmond wasn't her puppet. He was her partner. When the recordings played of them mocking my service, mocking my nightmares, the courtroom shifted. Whatever sympathy lingered for Lily evaporated. The verdict came on a gray February morning. The foreman's voice was steady, unflinching. On all counts, fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, forgery, we find the defendants guilty. The words rang louder than any gunfire I'd ever heard. Desmond was sentenced to 22 years, Lily to 18, with the possibility of parole after 12 if she cooperated further. They were led away in chains, their faces stripped of charm, their bodies hunched. I watched, not with triumph, but with something emptier. No relief, no joy, just the hollow silence of justice served. That night, I lay in bed, alone, finally, mercifully alone. The sheets were clean, the air free of perfume, the house still. For the first time since I'd walked through that door months ago, I felt the faintest whisper of peace. But it wasn't victory. Not yet. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. Not after the trial. Not after the evidence played on courtroom screens for strangers to dissect. Every corner seemed tainted, marked by the echo of their voices, their laughter, their betrayal. So I tore it all down. I ripped up the carpet in the bedroom, the same fibers their bodies had pressed into. I repainted the walls in fresh white, covering the invisible stains of lies. I replaced the bed, the quilt, the dresser, even the curtains. If fire had cleansed their clothes, paint and labor would cleanse my home. I worked until my hands blistered, until sweat blurred my eyes, until exhaustion finally let me sleep. Family came too. My grandmother, at 93, sat in her wheelchair in the living room while I hammered nails. That boy was always weak, she said, voice sharp as a blade. And Lily was always selfish. You're better off without both. It still hurts, Grandma. Of course it hurts. Love is supposed to hurt when it's real. The fact that you're grieving means you loved honestly. They're the ones who should be ashamed. Her bluntness soothed me, more than pity ever could. Neighbors brought casseroles, cookies, gossip. Sergeant Reynolds, my old drill sergeant, stopped by one evening with a case of beer. You know what your problem is, Vera? He asked, settling on my porch. My husband's a criminal. He smirked. Your husband's a civilian. Civilians don't understand sacrifice. They think love's a feeling instead of a choice. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Nope. Supposed to make you smarter. Next time, pick someone who knows what it means to serve something bigger than themselves. I snorted. There won't be a next time. He chuckled, clinking his bottle against mine. There will be. You're not the type to give up on love. You're the type to do better. Therapy helped too, though slowly. Dr. Julius, patient but firm, told me, Betrayal by family cuts deeper than combat. In war, you expect the enemy to try to hurt you. At home, you expect safety. Your brain can't reconcile the two. Then how do I ever trust again? I asked. Carefully, with people who earn it, and by remembering not everyone is capable of the cruelty you experienced. I wanted to believe her. Some days, I almost did. Other days, I analyzed every smile, every tone of voice, searching for hidden knives. But gradually the weight lifted. Slowly, painfully, I learned to breathe again. Then the letter arrived. It was late August, nearly a year since that night. Federal prison stationery. My name scrawled in familiar handwriting that once made my heart flutter. I almost threw it away unopened. Jake had warned me, nothing he sends is for your benefit. Don't give him the satisfaction. But curiosity won. I unfolded the paper, my hands steady but my chest tight. Marina, it began. I know I have no right to write you. I know you don't want to hear from me. But there are things I need to tell you, things the trial didn't cover. I loved you. That part was real. When we met, when we married, when I promised to wait for you, all of that was real. I know it doesn't seem possible after everything, but it's the truth. The affair with Lily started as comfort. I was lonely. She was there. It became something destructive, something I couldn't stop. She made me feel like I deserved more. The fraud, that was hers before it was mine. By the time I realized how deep I was in, backing out would have meant exposing everything. I'm not making excuses. I betrayed you. I stole from you. I mocked you. I wished for your death. That's unforgivable. But I need you to know that the man who married you loved you completely. The man who destroyed you, I don't even recognize him. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that somewhere inside all the lies, there was something real. I hope you find happiness, Marina. I hope you find someone worthy of you. I hope you find peace. Desmond. I read it 3 times, once with suspicion, searching for manipulation. Again with rage, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. And finally with emptiness, realizing none of it mattered. Whether he believed those words or not, whether regret was genuine or strategic, it was irrelevant. Because the man I married was gone, if he had ever truly existed at all. I folded the letter neatly, placed it in the fireplace, and struck a match. This time, the flames didn't roar with rage. They flickered softly, steadily, carrying the past into smoke. As the ashes crumbled, I whispered, "Goodbye." And for the first time, I meant it. September brought a call from Detective Caston. His voice was steady, but I could hear the edge of fatigue, the tone of a man who had carried too many secrets too long. "Thought you'd want an update," he said. "Lily's talking." I leaned back against my kitchen counter, arms folded. Talking how? She's cooperating with federal investigators, giving up accomplices, unraveling a larger fraud ring that spans 3 states. Her testimony already led to 17 additional arrests. I let that sink in. Lily, my cousin, the girl who once braided my hair at sleepovers, was now a federal informant. She thinks it'll shave years off her sentence, Caston continued. If parole comes early, maybe 7 years instead of 12. 7 years. She'd still be in her 40s when she walked out, old enough to try again, young enough to charm someone new. Pity stirred in my chest, but it dissolved as quickly as it came. I remembered the recordings, her laugh as she mocked my nightmares, her whisper, "She'll never know." Whatever time she got, it wouldn't erase that cruelty. "There's something else," Caston added. "The Victim Compensation Fund is in motion. Between asset forfeitures and restitution orders, you'll see full recovery of your losses plus damages. Not just you, all their victims. Money. Cold, hard, practical justice. I'd never expected to see it again, and though it wouldn't rebuild the years they'd stolen, it felt appropriate. "Thank you," I said quietly. When I hung up, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the sunlight pouring through the window. It lit the counters I'd scrubbed clean, the new curtains I'd hung, the air that no longer smelled of betrayal. It was almost enough, but not quite. A week later, I drove to the military cemetery outside town. The rows of white headstones stretched endlessly, each one carrying a name, a life, a sacrifice. I found the markers I knew best. Sergeant Lisa Park, killed by an IED. Lieutenant Michael Santos, suicide 6 months after coming home. Captain Jennifer Walsh, crashed during a medevac mission. Friends, comrades, heroes. I knelt in the grass, fingers brushing the carved letters. My throat tightened. I was worrying about the wrong war, I whispered. You gave everything, and I came home to this. The breeze carried no answer, but the silence was comforting. I closed my eyes. In my nightmares, I'd seen Desmond's betrayal over and over, Lily's eyes wide as I dragged her from my bed. But here, among the graves, my anger ebbed. They weren't worth it. Not the sleepless nights, not the rage, not the fire that had consumed my insides as surely as it had their clothes. They were footnotes now, a cheating husband, a selfish cousin, criminals in orange jumpsuits. They weren't my story anymore. I laid my palm flat against Sergeant Park's stone. I won't carry them anymore, I whispered. Not here, not with you. The wind rustled the trees, a soft sound like agreement. When I rose, I felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but lighter. That evening, I sat on my porch and watched the sun melt into the horizon. The world smelled of cut grass and wood smoke. Children's laughter carried from down the block. Normal sounds. Sounds I'd once thought I'd never trust again. The ghosts of Desmond and Lily lingered, but they no longer owned me. Their choices had written them into prison records and court transcripts. Mine would write me into something else. The past was ashes. The future, still unwritten. For the first time in years, I let myself imagine it. Not as a soldier, not as a victim. As a woman still capable of love. Still capable of rebuilding. Still capable of more. The wedding was small. No cathedral arches, no glittering chandeliers. Just my parents' backyard. The same place where I had once stood trembling in my grandmother's lace dress, promising forever to a man who didn't deserve it. But this time, everything was different. Fairy lights strung across the trees glowed softly in the twilight. The smell of barbecue drifted from the grill, mixing with the sweetness of lilacs blooming at the edge of the yard. Guests sat in mismatched chairs, the kind you borrowed from neighbors when family gatherings grew larger than expected. Lonel Rodriguez stood at the end of the aisle, waiting for me. Former Marine medic. Scarred like me, inside and out. We had met at a veterans support group. 2 broken people sitting in a circle of folding chairs, too wary to speak at first. But he understood silence, and he understood pain. Slowly, honesty had stitched us together where lies once tore me apart. He didn't try to fix me. He stood beside me. Jake was my man of honor, straightening his tie as he whispered, "You sure about this? Marriage didn't work out so well the first time." I smiled faintly. Last time I married someone who wanted to change me. This time I'm marrying someone who likes who I already am in. Grandma sat in the front row, sharp-eyed even at 94. She winked when she saw me, her hand resting on her cane. "Better choice this time," she mouthed. The music was simple, a Johnny Cash song we both loved, the chords raw and steady. I walked barefoot through the grass, my white dress brushing against the blades, each step grounding me in the earth of home. When I reached Lonel, he took my hand, steady and warm. His vows were short, direct, unpolished, like him. "I promise to honor your scars, not hide them. To stand watch with you through the nightmares. To choose you every day, even when it's hard." My throat tightened. I promised him honesty, even when truth hurt. I promised him trust, careful but complete. I promised him partnership, not perfection. We exchanged rings under the fading sun. Mrs. Peterson cried into her tissue. Sergeant Reynolds raised his beer in salute. My parents looked at each other, relief etched in their smiles, relief that I had survived the fire and found someone who could hold my hand in its aftermath. The reception lasted until midnight. Laughter rose higher than the music. Stories flowed as easily as the wine. War stories, family stories, moments of grief shared and made lighter by community. At one point, I looked around and realized there were no whispers, no gossip, no hidden stares, only joy, only people who wanted me to be happy. Later, as Lonel and I danced, I caught sight of the house across the yard. My house, the one I had scrubbed clean of ghosts, repainted, rebuilt, no longer a shrine to betrayal. Now it was a home waiting for us to fill it with something better. Tomorrow we would carry his furniture inside, blend his history with mine. Carefully, respectfully, 2 lives meeting in the middle, not one consuming the other. I was 35, a decorated veteran, a survivor of combat and betrayal. I had been broken and rebuilt, betrayed and vindicated, gutted and reborn. Desmond and Lily were hundreds of miles away, their futures measured in parole hearings and prison calendars. Their names still appeared in headlines sometimes, footnotes in articles about fraud cases and restitution, but they no longer lived rent-free in my chest. They were stories, not shadows. I rarely thought of them anymore, and when I did, it wasn't rage that came, it was pity. For the smallness of their choices, for the way they had mistaken greed for love, betrayal for power. Revenge hadn't been burning their clothes or humiliating them on the lawn. It hadn't even been watching the judge pronounce them guilty. Real revenge was standing here, alive and loved, refusing to let their cruelty define my capacity for trust. As the last notes of the song faded, Lonel squeezed my hand. "No regrets?" he whispered. I thought of the fire pit flames licking the night, of the courtroom silence as the jury read guilty, of the ashes of Desmond's letter crumbling in my fireplace. I thought of every scar on my body, on my heart, and how each one had led me here. I looked up at him, smiled. Not a single one. We walked hand in hand across the yard toward the house glowing with warm light. Behind us, family and friends laughed and clinked glasses. Ahead of us stretched years of possibility, fragile but ours. At the doorway I paused, taking one last look at the life I had rebuilt from ruins. The past was closed. The future was open. And for the first time since I'd walked into that bedroom months ago, I felt truly, completely free.